Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM and 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kazmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. National Council of Elders and past presidents fast at work to mend seeming cracks within the MPP after Canada Japan was referred to disciplinary committee over public comments that undermine the party. Also on the program this afternoon, what will be your reaction if, as part of requirements to enter the public sector, you will have to undergo a mandatory drug test?
An executive order that makes mandatory drug tests as a pre-employment requisite for entry into the public service and the private sector.
Well, the government is considering introducing an executive order to that effect. We'll bring you more. Much later on the program, Ghana Private Road Transport Union announces a 20% increase in transport fares for drivers plying the Kaswa-Winneba Highway, citing the deplorable condition of the road. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, what will be your reaction if, as part of requirements to enter the public sector, you will have to undergo a mandatory drug test? Well, the Minister for the Interior, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, says the government is considering introducing an executive order that would make drug testing a mandatory requirement for employment in both the public and private sectors. He told Parliament on World Drug Day that the proposed policy forms part of a broader effort to strengthen workplace safety, improve productivity and discourage substance abuse, particularly among young people entering the workforce, a move that could have far-reaching implications for job seekers. Mubarak Muntaka listed other measures like establishing national rehab centers in every region to meet the needs of persons suffering from substance use disorders.
Mr. Speaker, effective drug control is not solely a law enforcement matter. It demands a whole of government and a whole of society approach that integrates enforcement with prevention, treatment and rehabilitation. I call on this House to support government in considering the following priorities: oversight very effectively the budgetary allocation to NACOC to close critical capacity gaps in intelligence, interception and forensic analysis. Strengthen the regulatory framework for precursors, chemicals, and pharmaceutical supply chain to curb the diversion of substances like tramadol. Establish National Rehabilitation Center, particularly one in every region, to meet the needs of Ghanaians suffering from substance use disorders. Expand drug education and demand reduction programs in schools, communities, and workplaces, targeting youth who remain most vulnerable. Introduce an executive order that makes mandatory drug tests as a pre-employment requisite for entry into the public service and the private sector to safeguard institutional integrity, promote workplace safety, and deter drug use among the youth and working population. Mr. Speaker, the global consensus has increasingly affirmed that drug addiction is, first and foremost, a public health issue and not simply a criminal one.
And you had the Minister for the Interior, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak. Today is International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking, and the Narcotics Control Commission is marking this day with a call on drug dealers to halt their trade and potential ones asked to reconsider their involvement. On Tuesday, NACOC destroyed 9.6 tons of cannabis, 46.89 kg of cocaine, 2,734 bottles of cannabis-laced drinks, and 130 boxes of hemp-related products at Bundase in the Greater Accra region. Director General of NACOC, Brigadier General Maxwell Obuba-Mante, said the destruction of the seized substances demonstrated the country's commitment to protecting public health, public safety and national security.
Let me inform you that I'm aware that you all know of the Australian methamphetamine saga. Through the efforts of narcotics, in collaboration with the Bureau of National Investigation and other security agencies, I'm happy to announce that we have picked the lead shipper. We did that over 3 nights. My officers slept out of their homes for 3 months and successfully picked the person who led that enterprise. This afternoon, we'll be picking more. Whoever is involved, like I always say, it is only God and the courts that can free you. We'll get to the bottom of this enterprise and make sure that Ghana will not be declared as a narco state.
And you had the Brigadier General Maxwell Obuba-Mante. He's the Director General of NACOC, speaking to the press earlier this week. My colleague George Quaining is a man on this beat. He joins us live on the line. George, what has the gathering been talking about?
So much for your time. And mentioned today
Hello, George. We're struggling to hear you. The network not so bad. Would you kindly reposition yourself?
Is it better?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm sorry, we'll have to call you back, or perhaps on another line, George Quaining, just so you're able to bring us this needed update from this program. Well, as the world commemorates Global Drug Day, the team is also in the Bono region, targeting commercial drivers and transport operators, urging drivers to stay vigilant against drug peddlers and the transportation of illegal substances. There's more in this report for you.
Drug abuse and illicit peddling in Ghana represents an escalating public health security concern. Officials and academic reports highlight a surge in substance use among young Ghanaians, fueled by economic hardship, easy access, and peer pressure. In order to curb the situation, the Narcotics Control Commission, through its Counseling, Referral and Social Integration Unit, took its anti-drug campaign directly to the Sunyani Lorry Station, where officials engaged drivers, mates and passengers on the dangers of substance abuse and drug trafficking.
Drugs, I say illegal drugs. No one to us here. Don't free your money. And see, I know you won't have your drivers for you. No more ever Cassano.
Esther Asiumi, regional head of the Counseling, Referral and Social Reintegration Unit at NACOC, cautioned that many long-distance drivers use drugs to stay awake during long journeys, but this impairs their judgment and increases the risk of fatal road accidents.
You see, most of these people are driving long distance, so they are always looking for something to help them stay on the road without falling asleep. And unfortunately, the exact of what they are not looking for is what happens. So the thing that we all need to know, especially the drivers, is that a human body was not made to work without rest. So if you work for a while, you need to rest. There's no need to take any energy-enhancing medication on drugs to help you do your job. Because the end is what we all see, accidents, fatal accidents that kill or maim people. So take a rest when you are working, relax, and so that we'll all live healthy lives and work towards the building of our country.
And that was a News Desk report. Let's return to George Quaining, who is following this gathering for us as the world marks Drugs Day today. George, what more can you tell us as regards what officials there have been saying?
Beatrice, thanks so much for your time. And like you rightly mentioned, today is World Drug Day, and the relevant stakeholder, which is the Narcotics Control Committee, is actually marking this day with other, stakeholders. We have the Chief of Staff as the main guest of honor. The Education Minister is here. We have the Minister for Interior also here. But let me just share with you this statistic. UNDC World Drug Report 2025 tells us that 316 million people globally used an illicit drug in 2023. The illicit drug generates hundreds of billions of dollars every year. and this is a serious matter. And so, NACOC is here engaging people to ensure that this very thing we call drug abuse is actually curtailed. If we go to schools, if I share with you statistics in schools, at least a student has experimented with 2 drugs or more. And it tells you how serious it is. And then the Director General of the Narcotics Commission fears that there will not be any working force in the next 5-6 years if we don't take this issue seriously. And families are being destroyed, homes are being destroyed, lives of young people are being destroyed, among others. And drug networks are being strengthened each and every day. So it's a serious issue. We want to fight this according to the Narcotics Control Commission. And I want to share with you the theme for this very year, and it's the world drug problem, persistent issues, new challenges, innovative responses. So this is what we are deliberating on today, Beatrice.
Thank you so much, George Quainin, my colleague, following the drugs issue as the world marks International Drugs Day today. Thank you so much. Let's still stay a bit longer on this. I'm joined by Humphrey Kofi, who is with Mental Health Society. He also joins us on the phone. Good afternoon to you, Humphrey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
From your end at Mental Health Society, how devastating does it look like? Now we're getting the Interior Minister coming to implement some measures, as it were.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that for us within the mental health setting, we think that these issues must be addressed considering or looking at the social factors that actually increase vulnerability to substance use. And some of these social factors include poverty, unemployment, violence, and social exclusion, among others. Now, the focus this time, we believe, should be targeted at the youth, especially because they will form the strongest labor force in future. So if their productive lives are being destroyed by the use of drugs at this time, I can imagine that in the near future we will not have a very strong and productive force. So in addressing this today, we believe that communities, policymakers, the media like your good self and all stakeholders need to prioritize the prevention, early intervention, treatment, and recovery support, and not necessarily having to discriminate or exclude these people who have indulged in either drug use or substance use.
Do I hear you directly say that you probably disagree with the proposal by the government to have mandatory drug tests if you're going to enter the workforce?
Sorry, pardon me, can you come again?
You're saying that we should be concentrating on helping people rather than isolating them or discriminating against them. And I asked you the question about whether you disagree with the Interior Minister's proposal to have mandatory drug tests in our workforce, because that will probably eventually take out those who are seen to have had such substances in their system.
No, not necessarily. But it's important that these people are also taken through counseling. So if you employ a certain approach that would exclude them, that would let them feel that they are being discriminated against, it will be difficult for you to have a psychological encounter with them to, let them understand the repercussions of what they are doing and how it's likely to affect them in future. So much as we address the issue from that perspective, it's important that we draw them closer to understand their situation and see the interventions that could be employed to address them.
Thank you.
You understand? But excluding them necessarily may not address the situation.
All right.
That is the point we are trying to make.
Thank you so much. We'll have to end it here. Mr. Humphrey Kofi, he is with Mental Health Society. Let's bring in the thoughts as well of security and fraud consultant, Mr. Richard Kumado, who joins us on the phone. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you as well for joining us.
Thank you, Beatrice.
The government says drug testing is going to be mandatory for employment and other security records. Way to go?
Yes. if the facilities exist and we have capability of doing it, why not? Particularly when it comes to gun acquisition and the likelihood of it, vetting applicants who propose to own a gun goes through background checks, face-to-face interviewing, and medicals. And one of the medical elements would be to have a drug test. And so if they have their facilities available, that may be a good thing to do.
We heard the mental health advocate there, Mr. Humphrey, saying that, or expressing concern rather, that this could be discriminatory. We should rather look forward to helping those people instead of measures that could isolate them. What do you think about his thought as well?
I agree perfectly, except that in peculiar circumstances, certain decisions are taken based on the risks to public interest and public welfare. And if they have a reasonable consideration to believe that you are not mentally sound, they might want to exclude you and not include you, particularly when it comes to ownership of guns and many related matters. Having said that, it is also true that if you take a gun ownership in peculiar circumstances, many of the guys who trigger shooting people and many of those ones are not people who are mentally ill. And at what point do you really determine somebody has a mental problem? It's a very tricky question, and it's a very dicey situation, because we all know that not everybody who is in suit is mentally sound. So that particular thing, I think the language, the public language used is not appropriate, and I think that is where people are raising issues of discrimination and is ignoring the public anger. Because today, even when you are applying for visa, they ask you to go for medicals. And out of the medicals, they have various tests you do, and the results go to the decision makers without necessarily mentioning what they are actually asking you to test for. But if you come out to say you are going to test for drugs, you are going to test for mental, then you are going to have people who will say, tell us what the procedure is, where are the facilities in the country, and what will be the regulatory environment through which you want to push this policy. And I think that is where the issue is.
If this policy is eventually implemented, what do you foresee as the impact beyond those with guns? I mean, you're looking at workforce across all sectors.
No, I think the danger is it may result in litigation, and where there are no specific laws guiding the procedure and the processes. Then there could be issues of legality and litigation. So if you want to do it, pass a law and specify what you mean by A, B, C, D, and what the ramifications are and what the remedies are. In the absence of an appropriate law, you might be operating in the realm of absurdity, and you might open the Pandora box for all manner of things to happen.
Mr. Kumado, thank you so much for joining us
You're
and
welcome.
speaking to us. Richard Kumado is a fraud and security consultant. Some politics here, and the New Patriotic Party, NPP, has referred former presidential aspirant and former Asin Central Member of Parliament, Kennedy Ohene Japan, to its National Disciplinary Committee, following a series of petitions accusing him of making public comments that undermine party unity. The decision was taken at a joint meeting of the party's National Executive Committee, NEC, at the National Council on Thursday, when tensions flared, leading to physical altercations after a confrontation broke out between security personnel and a group of demonstrators chanting "Ken must go." The petitions stem from a series of recent public comments by Mr. Japan, in which he criticized some decisions taken by the NPP administration while it was in office. The disciplinary committee has been given 2 weeks to investigate the petitions and submit its recommendations to the party leadership. On 3FM Sunrise earlier today, three personalities shared their views on the growing controversy. A former NPP government spokesperson on governance and security, Dr. Paul Boachidankwa, gave us his thought earlier and said that individuals who make significant sacrifices for the party deserve to be held in high esteem.
The party has long-standing committees, right? Just like the NDC have committees. And once you're a member of the party, any committee can call you for a conversation. I mean, the fact that you are being called to a committee does not convict you of any crime. And so I would say that whether or not he's called, okay, as a member of the party, he can attend to the meeting. I'm aware that there are private conversations and background conversations that are ongoing from the Council of Elders to engage the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong, and obviously from the two former presidents and the flag bearer as well to engage. You recall that the flag bearer had visited him. I'm aware that there are ongoing conversations, but I mean, for me, I think that we need to be able to smoke the peace pipe. I mean, at the back of this as well is the formation of a new political party that is calling on Honorable Kennedy Agyapong to become their candidate, which is the base, okay, because we've had conversations of that as well. So we need to win the tug of war.
And you heard Paul Grave Boache Dankwa, former government spokesperson on governance and security. Meanwhile, Solomon Owusu, Director of Communications for the United Party, has questioned the consistency of the NPP's handling of internal party matters. He wants the party to explain what action it has taken against persons who previously called for only loyalists of former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to win internal party elections.
Remember during COVID, President Akufo-Addo came to tell us that in his darkest moments, the only person that he discussed issues with was Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So if somebody has so much confidence in you, so much trust in you, took all the diabolic decisions, including digging of hole at Ridge, and then you get the opportunity to lead, having first of all come back to us to apologize for all the things that you did not need to distance yourself from it. It doesn't show a mark of a good leader. You understand? You say you weren't part of it. It's a fuel. They were increasing anything anyhow. To the extent that you told us that he did not even know that fuel prices had been increased some few days into elections. When he knows very well that there is a standing formula that is applied. So such a person, if you come to do that and he is not hauled before the disciplinary committee, then he was. And by the way, this petition has been said, do you believe in your heart of heart that those young men that sent the petition, they are not being pushed by some bigger hand somewhere?
And he had Solomon Owusu. He is the Director of Communications for the United Party. The Member of Parliament for Garu, Dr. Thomas Anaba, has also called for dialogue instead of disciplinary action against Kennedy Agyapong. He believes that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, together with former presidents and key figures of the party, should engage Mr. Agyapong privately to find a lasting solution.
Like Kennedy Agyapong to a disciplinary committee meeting. Who are those who are going to constitute that to call him? If you look at the towers of the NPP currently, I think he himself mentioned it, and I agree with him that he's among the top 10 in the country. And you can imagine those who are going to consider, is it the top 10 who are going to invite him or another group of people? I respect the rule of law that a committee is a committee set up by the party. But you see, it would look like you are coming now to give justification to a statement that you have made which is nationalistic and everybody has seen it to be a good statement. What is there in it for you to call him? I think the committee should be very careful and do not worsen the matter and make Kennedy Agyapong feel belittled, and he may take a decision that may not be favorable for the party, just like Alan Chiramantin, and their numbers will keep dwindling. And at the end, UP Plus may even really come and pass them. If Bawumia wants peace, go and liaise with the former presidents at the background.
And you have the Member of Parliament for Garu, Dr. Thomas Anaba. The Attorney General has opposed a review application by former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu challenging her removal from office. The Supreme Court in May of this year ordered the consolidation of her challenge and that of another group, Center for Citizenship, Constitutional and Electoral Systems, into one suit. While this happened, the court took notice of the absence of representation for the former CJ and the unavailability of the AG for the case management of the suit. The Supreme Court subsequently adjourned for July 2 for judgment. In her application for review, the former CJ stressed the lack of fair trial in the determination of the court, arguing that her counsel, Godfred Dame, had filed a notice withdrawing his service. That request for a review of the decision of the court, however, is being opposed by the Attorney General, who says both the former CJ and her new counsel at all material times were aware of the withdrawal of Godfred Dame. The AG wants the Supreme Court to dismiss the request for a review, insisting it has failed to satisfy the grounds for exercising the court's jurisdiction, further arguing that the former AG defaulted in filing her statement of case in one of the suits. Some more here. The Ghana Private Road Transport Union GPRTU has announced a 20% increase in transport fares for drivers operating on the Kaswa-Winneba Highway, citing the deplorable condition of the road. TV3's Nanaya Asare recently reported that national executives of the GPRTU joined drivers at Buduburum to protest against the contractor handling the road project, describing the highway as a death trap. Deputy National Public Relations Officer for the GPRTU, Samuel Amwa, is now warning that failure to address the situation would leave the union with no option but to implement the 20% fare increase from the 29th of June 2026.
Na driver for intimi komra wo ni miremu no em se ya besi ne no omunye bibia empampa ho enti no yenso yetena ase hu se da bi yentimi nka se ye be park cars no as ye di kan ye dwene ho se koba ne sa ye nyine be park car na ati atua e de ati aban no ye ko park car na ye nyine nka 2021 December 6 ye park car within some short time no ye nyine ni bi si o manga na edim se bibisa nso koba ebeha ye timemufo ni bebe obi ko yare so tibiko baby okọ tiesi there bi sa na te de ebepe an other alternative route ebetime de akọ sa destination no entini e say ebetime use to say bi abodwo ase kokofa suaduro ni e de atwa si ni eja other route no the main road no etwa e de egu entini by so doing so na chese say e to more fuel ekoba ne sa nso na chese driver no ontime sika ogie no ontime mfa nkoba sa debt no ene ne yes there be sanity dia sa ban entime aye bibia mfa ho ekosi sa 29 ne dia na ne ya bomodin ato eye cash ntuabo no by 20%.
And you had the deputy PRO for the GPRTU, Samuel Amwa Aninchi. He was saying that they've explored all avenues, trying to use alternative routes to transport passengers to and from the Kaswa area because the main road is bad. But if they have to continue on that route, it means that they will have to increase transport fares by 20%. Otherwise, the government will have to do something about fixing the main roads. Meanwhile, some drivers and passengers who use the Kaswa-Winneba Highway have expressed support for the proposed fare increment.
Sesi akwani de ye wanka samsam traffic kra mo be dia dance se kwa we efi an mo call beria camp ana break ubetuna gina traffic by 2 hours ana 3 hours now the same time so drivers no ka bia ko ba ku bia ba ole so ko shop cars bebre sesi bebre na mo ba e kra mo be dia dance cars bebre na ni an only now because of equanimity amaka owners bebre na yomo cars efi omo yomo cars no bebre na wo shop Intinama says your passengers no crumple bread. I will only fair no because driver be a buy a boy person or general and all person. Fairness, we am 20 cents penny fungus at Nasi. No one will sell cranny and some bad boy drivers. Any yes, we know no, Yajitum, a sampa, Papa says, Siano Crano, who cover could be our shop.
And you had one of the drivers on the Kaswa road talking about, of course, accepting the proposal from GPRTU to increase transport fares by 20% for those plying that road because of how deplorable it is. And he explaining the challenges that a number of the time they have to take their cars to the workshop because the road or the nature of the road keeps destroying their cars. The 2026 annual National Labour Conference is opening in Ho, the Volta region this morning, and actually did this morning with the Vice President, Professor Nana Jenupukwajiman, expected to address the conference. The annual conference serves as a strategic platform to deepen dialogue on issues that confront the world of labour, and we'll bring you some more in our subsequent bulletins. That's it for the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to 3news.com for more news.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Chartered Institute of Bankers makes case for further interest rate cuts to ease Ghana's high cost of borrowing despite persistently expensive bank loans.
I must say that Ghana is really we've really come very far. Interest rates were as high as 36%, okay, at least for the 91-day T-bills.
Also ahead, IC Insights predicts growth rate of 6.4% for Ghana in 2026. We will tell you why. And Exploco to start Voltairean Basin oil drilling in 2026 as Central Refinery expands to 100,000 barrels per day. We'll hear from President John Dramani Mahama.
I'm also happy to report that Exploco, which is the operating arm of GNPC, is poised to begin onshore drilling in the Voltairean Basin.
I am Bismarck. Also, will bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Ghana's benchmark interest rate has fallen sharply from its crisis era highs, but businesses are still paying some of the most expensive borrowing costs in Africa. The newly sworn-in president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers Ghana says recent declines in interest rates are encouraging and expects conditions to improve further in the months ahead. My colleague Michael Obodu has the rest of the story.
Interest rates in Ghana soared above 30% during the country's economic crisis, pushing up borrowing costs for businesses and households. Since then, conditions have improved considerably. The Bank of Ghana's policy rate currently stands at 14%, while the yield on the 91-day Treasury bill has dropped to just about 5%. Despite the easing in benchmark rates, lending costs remain elevated, with many businesses continuing to struggle to access affordable credit. Speaking at the institution's annual general meeting and elections, the newly elected president, Dr. Ellen Ohene Afakwa, said there are growing signs that the interest rate environment will continue to improve.
I must say that Ghana is really we've really come very far. Interest rates were as high as 36%, okay, at least for the 91-day T-bills. Today, it's just around 5%. So that should tell you the magnitude as to how much we've progressed as a country. Even though comparatively it may look high, we think that we are at our lowest bottom when it comes to interest rates. Moving from 36 to 5%, I think is a great achievement, and we're on the right trajectory as a country.
Turning to her priorities, Dr. Ohene Afakwa said artificial intelligence will be a key area of focus during her tenure, with plans to integrate AI more strongly into professional banking education and training.
We're going to build on that, going to build on generative AI, agents AI, all the aspects of AI built into our curriculum to make sure that our members are relevant. And my term is for the next 2 years. For the next 2 years, our focus is to ensure that we really build on the innovations they've started, build on the physical infrastructure and also the digital infrastructure that the outgoing president and the council have started.
And that was a report by my colleague Michael Obodu on the Chartered Institute of Bankers Ghana making the case for further interest rate cuts to ease Ghana's high cost of borrowing despite persistently expensive bank loans. Meanwhile, banks and other financial institutions in Ghana are being urged to treat environmental threats with the same agency as credit and operational risks amid growing concerns over climate change and environmental degradation. The International Finance Corporation, IFC, says failure to properly assess environmental risks could expose financial institutions to significant losses and undermine the sustainability of investments.
Environmental risk, including flooding, pollution, land degradation, and the effects of climate change, are increasingly affecting businesses and investment projects across the world. Yet, many financial institutions in developing economies still do not fully integrate environmental considerations into their lending and investment decisions. The International Finance Corporation, the private sector arm of the World Bank Group, says this must change. Speaking at an ESG roundtable for development partners, environmental and social risk management specialist at the IFC, Damilola Sopo-Smith, encouraged banks, insurance firms, and other financial institutions in Ghana to strengthen their environmental and social risk management frameworks and make sustainability a core part of their business strategies.
One of the things that we had to work on was trying to ensure or trying to show the financial sector how environmental and social risks do translate into business risks, right? So the concept or the idea of having incorrect permitting or having maybe some sort of waste incident on the site that leads to a shutdown by the EPA, for example. These are risks that are environmental and social in nature.
The event was sponsored by the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO, and the Deputy Head of Cooperation at the Swiss Embassy, Magdalene Wust, reiterated Switzerland's commitment to promoting environmental, social, and governance standards in Ghana.
This is an important program because social and environmental risk become more and more important in all countries.
Away from the financial sector, IC Insights is forecasting a growth rate of 6.4% plus or minus 0.5 percentage points for Ghana in 2026. This is based on the back of a bullish gross domestic product GDP in the first quarter of 2026. The leading investment research firm said it expects the government to raise its target during the mid-year budget review in July 2026. Ghana's economic rebound gathered pace in quarter one of 2026, with growth dynamics suggesting broadening of momentum beyond the extractive sector into firmer consuming or consumer spending. This is still Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. I'll start some other stories. President John Dramani Mahama has announced that Explorco, the exploration subsidiary of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, will begin onshore drilling activities in the Voltairean Basin before the end of 2026 as part of efforts to determine the commercial viability of petroleum reserves in the area. The president disclosed this while cutting the sod for Phase 2 of the Central Oil Refinery project in Tema. According to the president, the Voltairean Basin has been identified as a region with significant petroleum potential, and the planned drilling program will mark a major step in Ghana's efforts to expand its hydrocarbon resource base beyond existing offshore fields.
I'm also happy to report that Explorco, which is the operating arm of GNPC, is poised to begin onshore drilling in the Voltairean Basin before the end of this year. And when I say onshore, it means on land. Offshore, so far all our discoveries have been offshore in the sea. We've discovered a lot of potential onshore, and so GNPC is going to, through Explorco, start drilling wells to explore that oil before the end of this year. The research is about repositioning Ghana from a nation that primarily exports raw materials to one that processes, manufactures, refines, and creates value within its own borders.
And that was President John Dramani Mahama ending Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also, for more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Thanks for your company.